It's 6-3 over the Devils, courtesy of 3 from number 77.
It's amazing because all of our focus was on Igor Shesterkin again, and it quickly shifted to Tony Dynamic. I think that as soon as you come off this high from this win, though, especially if you're management, John, geez, Tony needs a contract. And what do we do with Shesterkin? Do we play him again? Because he's won 2 in a row.
Pleasant problem, Steve.
Well, I know.
Right?
It's a great problem to have. Everybody's playing well. A lot of great individual performances inside the team game. But, boy, some questions that you still have to answer that are going to be tough.
And you know what? This is how rare what Tony DeAngelo performed tonight was in Rangers annals, especially among defensemen. Take a look at this. He ties the single-game franchise records for goals and points for a defenseman set by a guy named Leach. He's the 9th Rangers defenseman in nearly 100 years to record a hat trick. And the last 3 before him, that guy named Leach back in the playoffs in 95. And then in the regular season, Rail Vertalainen 38 years ago, and our guy working in the dressing room, Dave Maloney, back in 1980 when he said goaltenders didn't even play in the game.
Well, there was times in this game where Tony just saw Twine anyways, so there might not have been a goalie there. There was a lot of help, too, off the screens. To start the game, though, John, he had some big plays in his own zone, one with the block, one here with the stick on a net drive, and that sets the tone defensively, and that's where Tony has to go. Now, this pass I love because, to me, the goaltender being down there is unnecessary, and when you see it, it's smart to recognize it. That's a great pass there to Panarin. This play here to Tony, same as the Panarin goal, except he's the guy receiving. He has a great shot. Now, he said to you he flubbed it a little bit.
Yeah.
That still had Rocket labeled, but I'll take his word for it.
I love this play.
This pass is unbelievable. And it goes through Howden's legs at the blue line to get to Kreider. So we're talking about 2 primary assists, John, that were grade A quality, aside from the goals that he scores. And the 2 goals that he scores, he's got a little bit of help in front, first from Howden and then from Kreider. But let's focus on that right there. It takes a very special player on the point to see Twine. You've got sticks coming at you. You've got to be very secure in the fact that you're getting it by the first set of shin pads. You've got layers to look through. It's seeing the game in 3D when you're a defenseman at the blue line, sliding up and down. And if there's one thing he's doing better than anybody, it's sliding up and down the blue line and getting pucks through. And if you're going to have traffic like that, what a relationship and a reward system you have with Kreider and Howden. This is great stuff. At some point, Lemieux's going to come back. He'll be another guy. But for Tony, what a match made in heaven.
DeAngelo now with 11 goals, 25 assists, 37 points. At the moment, number 5 overall in the NHL among defensemen in scoring. That is remarkable from a guy who, for much of the season, was a third-pair defenseman. Number 1 star on the night, Tony DeAngelo. Number 2 star on the night, Artemi Panarin. We talked before the game about a guy who had no points in his last 2 games out in Western Canada, follows it up with a pair of 3-point nights, and look what he does. He becomes the first player to record 60 or more points in his first 43 games as a Ranger, again, in a history that spans almost 100 years, and the 6th in that franchise's history to do it in the team's first 43 games of a season. An absolutely remarkable season so far for Panarin, who had a goal and 2 tonight.
I just like to continue to focus on how strong he is in his own zone and how it parlays its way into the offensive zone. The Rangers were better at switching tonight, too, up top, using that ice up between the blue line and the top of the circles. There's 29 feet up there, lots of ice. When teams pack it in, switch like this. Make it confusing for the opposition to line up and mark their man. And that's what the Rangers did a great job of. That's why DeAngelo now has the puck low as a defenseman. He's not supposed to be there, but when you're playing hockey this way, it can be very confusing, and that's why Panarin receives the puck, elevates it, and again, I think it goes back to the pre-scout. The Rangers built their game around what the Devils weren't able to defend against, and that's a very strong outcome based on just following through on what your plan and design were before the game began.
So number 1, DeAngelo. Number 2, Panarin. Number 3 star of the game, how about Igor Shesterkin? 2nd start in a span of 3 days, makes 46 saves.
It's amazing how that number climbed during the game, and out of nowhere, we're in the 40s again. Mm-hmm. Now, for him, this is what I like. It's not easy to go from the KHL, where there's very little traffic, compared to the NHL, where there's big bodies, people that are willing to be in front of the net. If there's one point that I've seen so far with him that really lends itself to know that he's going to be able to continue to do this, is his ability to do this right here. Through traffic, find, locate, get a piece of your equipment when you have to scramble as close to the puck carrier as possible, and then still be able to play your game that's worked for you in the KHL. Believe me, you see plenty of breakaways in the KHL. This isn't something new to him, but being able to fight through the traffic, even this one right here, John, you still lose it for a split second. That's key for his game. If he's going to continue to play at the NHL level and be successful, he's got to be able to do that well. But you can see positionally, he had a game again where he got warmed into it, 2 goals early, but what a way to fight back, a response, and an enormous save right there, John, in the third period to make sure that this thing was going to be ended at a 6-3 score. All in all, another great performance. Again, a tough decision now. What do? You usually have to go for the guy that's been winning the games, but now you've got 2 guys sitting, right? And it becomes difficult. This is going to be a difficult decision. It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
And the reigning Cup champions looming Saturday in St. Louis. It will be an interesting decision. But Shesterkin, 2 wins in which he allows 3 goals in his first 2 games apiece, but the Rangers score a total of 11 in those 2 games. Plenty